Let's talk about bullying at school. Bullying. I strongly believe that people who bully, children who bully, it's called displacement. It means someone upset them and then they upset someone. But what you're going to notice about bullies are they're very strategic in who they pick on. Because bullies, in my opinion, are normally cowards. Bullies don't bully someone that's their size or bigger. They bully someone who's smaller. And if they are bullying that quiet kid that's bigger, or that kid that's bigger than they are, it's normally a mild-mannered, unassuming person. And in those cases, they get other bullies to pick on this one person. It's time for people to realize that bullies are the minority. They're not the majority. You don't go in school and see tons of bullies. It's normally one or two, a few specific people, probably per grade. So if you really think about it, there's probably about 4 or 5 of them, maybe 10, 20 out of how many people in a school. But they're being allowed to behave a certain way because there are no consequences. Your child goes to school, the teacher can't protect them, this faculty can't protect them. How are children being treated this way and there are adults around? Well, I'm going to tell you why. The reason why that's happening when adults are around, because teachers and principals, they are not there to be so involved in full-on attacks. They are educators. They have other things that they have to do. Their hands are tied in what to do. Why are there no police officers at the school? And if they are there limitations to what they can do? We have to stop looking at bullying and thinking about bullying as just something where they're just kids. It is not only is it physically taxing, but it's also mentally taxing on the person that's being bullied. Because instead of being able to focus on their lessons, they are fearing the bully. They are experiencing anxiety. They're experiencing fear. They're hypervigilant all day. They can't enjoy their lunch. They could probably barely taste their lunch because the bully is going to be bothering them. They can't sit quietly. Their heart is racing. They can't focus on what the teacher is saying because the bully is picking on them. Not only that, it causes fear in other students. Other students are not doing anything because they're scared. They're afraid. And what people don't understand is that when people just allow bullies to go on and do what they want to do, you are making probably the next homegrown terrorist, the next mass shooter, the next bully at work, the next person who will be harassing people at the job, because they're going to grow into adults with the same behaviors. There has to be consequences for those actions. Parents need to be held accountable. Now, sometimes there's some parents, they have no idea their children are doing this. But bullies should not be allowed to hinder educational progress, hinder and hold people hostage all day. They need to go somewhere. The few should not be overtaking the schools to such a degree that now teachers can be beat up, students are being assaulted, and they're being led to the brink and the point of suicide, taking their own life. And not to mention, if the bully lives on their street, they're experiencing this stuff 24/7. Something has to be done. Laws needs to be passed to make bullying a crime. Every time a child acts up, take the bully out of the classroom, put them in the office, call their parents in, and their parents have 1 hour, no more than 2 hours to pick them up, take them home, figure out what's going on. Call them in from the job. What happens is that many parents are just dropping off their little problem child because that's what it is. The child is problematic and they know, but they are at work, they're getting their break, and then all day long, where children should be learning and where teachers should be able to do their jobs, they're dealing with a child that's attacking and biting and kicking. This is crazy. Call the parents in, and teachers need to start calling 911. I encourage parents, tell your children to dial 911 when you are hit. Stop going to the teacher. That's not their job. They can tell the person perhaps when you were in the first and second grade, that stuff worked. The kindergartner or the first grader or second grader hits the kid. They don't know better. They're still growing. And the teacher says, no, no, no. And the child will learn the lesson. But when you have children with testosterones and grown about taller than you, that's a whole different situation. If you, an 11-year-old, hit a police officer, it's assault. If that 11-year-old hit the neighbor's kid, that's assault. I don't understand why we are in a society that's pitting children against one another, encouraging them to beat up and fight someone on the block. They're not doing anything about bullying, and bullying is seem like, oh, it's just child's play. It's gone way past that. It's different. I want to also add here, not only are bullies potential dangers to society, but those who are victims of bullying. Many people who go to school and do mass shootings or take their own life have been victims of bullying. So it's a two sides here. So if someone hits your child and they're like in middle school and high school and it's a constant thing and they're threatening them, children have cell phones. Dial 911 and report them. There is no age limit on a crime. Hitting another person is a crime. Threatening to hurt someone is a crime. I'm not saying if someone teases you, teasing can happen, I get it. And those things teachers can deal with. That's their job. Teachers needs to be more involved in that. If the child is causing issues and problems, I strongly believe that at that point, there needs to be intervention. Go check how their home life is. Call CPS. Well, CPS, I don't even know if they're doing anything, but there needs to be intervention where the families need to be investigated and looked at, their home life, because something is wrong why this child is coming to school and behaving this way. Get the parents more involved. Every time their child misbehaves, get the child out the classroom. Why should everybody else suffer and not be able to focus on their lessons or be so afraid or feel that they have to follow along and tease the child so that they can preserve themselves? Why 8 hours of torment? Why are children just standing there and allowing other kids to pick on people? You guys stand up against that bully. I'm not saying you need to hit them or do anything, but you defend it. You say no, you stop. But because you're silent, you're not saying anything. And the teachers are not saying anything because they can get sued by the antagonist parents. It's time to flip it around. Investigate them. Call them in from work. Call them in from home. And the way you do that is you call the police. And they have to either go down to the station or sit in that office, and they have 1 hour to pick up that child. And from that point on, there should be a list of things that needs to happen where there needs to be counseling. We need to find out what's going on at home. The parents need to be more involved in finding out what's going on with their children. Because you see, if the parent keeps getting called in all the time and it's now inconvenient to them, then they may be more inclined to do something about that child. Call the police. What's the police going to tell you? It's not a crime? If they do that, they're neglecting their duties. If a child hits you, a child assaults you, they beat you up, they're threatening your life, they're saying they're going to do this and do that, dial 911 and file a police report, because it's more serious at that point. They need to learn very early in this stage that there are consequences. That way you stop them from becoming that person that's breaking into your house, that person on your job that's bullying you, that boss from hell, or the homegrown shooter. Because it starts somewhere. And in my opinion, I believe most children that are bullying people, they have something else going on. There's something going on in their family dynamics. They may be being molested. They may be getting abused at home, teased at home, bullied at home. And all those things needs to be figured out. We cannot have school being like a prison yard. And you can't even say exactly like a prison yard, because even then they have measures in place where there may be sometimes things will happen, but it can't happen all the time. Call the police. Call the authorities. Use your cell phone and dial 911, because teachers do not have time to be prison guards. People and teachers and principals do not have time to be breaking up fights all day, because if they are doing that, then the education, that's suffering. That's what's being put on hold every minute, because the bully is interrupting the teacher and laughing, and the teacher has to spend 10 minutes trying to get the child to calm down, and then the child is being disruptive. We cannot afford to have our education system infiltrated by this one kid in a class, where 15 other students cannot focus because of this one kid. The handful of bullies in the school cannot dominate. This is unacceptable. And I'm telling you, parents, tell your children differently. You call the police. They threaten you, dial 911. And if they don't take it serious, then you as a parent, you're going to have to stand up, and you're going to have to fight for your child. You're going to have to go down to that police station and wonder why they're not taking it seriously. You may have to call the news station. You may have to write your congressman. You may have to write your governors. You have to do more, because your child can only do so much. And bullying should never be taken like they're just kids. Children today are not like just kids in the old days. They're shooting, they're killing, they're taking their parents' life. They are being cruel to animals. They are mutilating people. They're different. And something is happening with every last one of them. Hopefully, yes, that person can get the help that they need. Perhaps we can discover what's going on with them. But in the meantime, there must be consequences. You threaten my life, dial 911. Teachers, the student threatens to kill you, they hit you, dial 911. Why are we waiting until people are getting brutally beaten, hurt, assaulted before something happens? There is no such thing as you're too young. Maybe in first and second grade, but when you are you're at an age to know the difference between right and wrong, I'm not calling the teacher. I'm calling the police. Because what's happening is that person's becoming a little criminal. A child cannot do criminal actions and then you're trying to make teachers take care of it. If they are breaking the laws in the school by putting their hands on another human being, by assaulting them, then what happens? They are being enabled to keep going because there are no consequences. It's time for consequences. When their parents have to pick them up from the police station, when they have to go stand in front of a judge, when the parents are out of pocket and out, it's inconveniencing their lives, then they'll be more inclined to do something about it. Don't call the teacher. A student hits you, dial 911. Do it every time. All right, guys.